Hi, this is Marlon, and I'm here with a review of a new product. I promised this a while ago and finally getting around to it, and so I want to introduce you to the project. It is the Blackmagic Web Presenter. Cute little box, right? We're going to talk about it today, and I want to show you some of the things that you can do with it. So let's get right to it. This is the scene from our church in the back, and we are dealing with a lot of ambient light in our church. We have on the south side of our building, we have beautiful stained glass windows, so bear with me in the backlit kind of situation. Here it goes in all its glory, Blackmagic Web Presenter. We do want you to know that this one is retrofitted, is upgraded with this faceplate. The normal product comes without a faceplate. You have to buy this faceplate. But let's look at it. It allows you to have two video inputs, allows you to switch between the two by pressing one button. And it allows you to input some or connect to some menu options with your video and audio. Let's go to the back. This is where it gets real exciting. Okay, let's talk about plugging in. We have a regular AC connection. So thankful they didn't put a wall wart. Old school USB connection to our computer, laptop. We have 3 SDI connections, SDI in, program out, SDI loop out, HDMI in, HDMI loop out. This is where we get excited. Left and right stereo RCA in or XLR in mono. I'm going to plug in our XLR coming directly from our board on a special channel. I'm going to plug in our, let's talk about our connections, right? If we want 2 cameras, we only have one HDMI in, so we need to come in SDI. Most off-the-shelf consumer cameras do not do that. So you need one of these converters in order to do that. This is the Blackmagic microconverter HDMI to SDI. HDMI comes in with a USB power, 2 SDI outputs. Really cool, really smart. Let's plug those in. I'm going to plug in my USB power. I got my HDMI in from this camera. And then I need my SDI connection. The box is fully connected. And now we're going to come in through our SDI input. I want to remind you we're not using a very expensive camera. We're using the Canon Vixia HFR 800. It's the cheapest one I could find at Best Buy, and it works. Power on. There is no power switch. It's either plugged in or not plugged in. And let's go. Here we go. It's on. It's live. You'll notice in that little window there, I'm moving my camera. This unit, by default, does not come with this faceplate. You have to buy it as an extra. Not much. It's definitely worth it. Let me just move this around a little bit more. So we have 2 inputs, 1 and 2. Right now we only have 1 connected, but if there was a second one, it would be transitioning or moving to the second one by a simple touch of the button. So why do we need to do this? Well, number one, it allows us to use simple, not super expensive cameras. Again, this Canon Vixia one, it's about $250, not very expensive, but at least it does 1080, 59.94 or 1080/60, 1080p. That's great for what we're using. It allows us to zoom. I mean zoom, 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 zoom. We can zoom in really closely, do a nice tight close shot. If we have 2 cameras, we can set one to go wide. We could set one to go narrow. We could have one shooting wide while we prepare the next shot. And so we enter into camera directing, a 2-camera setup with a person that is the director and maybe 2 people on the camera. And these 2 camera people, maybe they have headsets or they can read signals and there's moving in and out. And so now we can capture things live. Maybe it's a play, 2-camera setup. That's something you couldn't do with the Mevo. The Mevo is limited maybe to 5 or 10 feet if you want to get a close headshot. But with this, we're way in the back and we're using the power of the zoom in order to get close. So that's a great option. Let's talk about how this thing works. Basically, it's not a camera, right? It's not a camera. It is a converter, a switcher. It's very important. The Mevo is a camera, a switcher, a camera and records. This guy does not record. So you're wondering, why are you so excited about it? Well, let's tell you what I'm excited about it. It allows me to have 2 cameras. Of course, the Mevo could do that. It simulates it. But this one actually allows me to do that and be farther away. Number 2, it has a simple XLR input. How simple? No crazy little converter, no crazy little device to go between that. It's right there, right? Thirdly, it's all wired. No wireless, no Bluetooth. It's simply focusing on the essentials, hardwired. I'm not wondering about, did I lose a signal? Did something happen? It's right there. Now, the purpose of this is allows me to put mixed cameras here. I could use a 4K camera, a super high-end camera. I could use a dummy camera here, again, 1080, not super fancy. What this thing does is that it takes those video signals, it brings them in there, and then it spits it out at 720p. Now, you may be thinking, wow, I just threw away my 1080, my 4K. Well, for web streaming, 720 is an HD quality that is pretty good and acceptable. And for our particular situation here at our church, we don't have high upload bandwidth. We're kind of stuck at 1 megabit. Now, that's not great. Some of you at your place can get 5 or 10. We're stuck with AT&T, and that's all we can get. And we were having a lot of problems with dropouts with the Mevo. This one handles all that conversion for us, and then our computer handles our uploading. So you can see how this divide and conquer idea. Let this guy focus in on the audio, video, getting it ready for us. Let the camera focus on uploading, and then we're able to use, we're using an old PC. This unit is supposedly, as lists on their specs, you could use a Chromebook. Now, Chromebooks are not high-end laptops, but for web streaming with this guy, you could be using super high-end cameras coming in here and uploading it at a fairly decent 720p. Let's talk about some of the options. You'll notice they have a button here for menu. We can switch between our audio and video options here. We can select our video input. I know you can't see that later on. I'll show more in depth about how we use this. We can edit our transitions. We could have different options for our mixer. We could be using the audio from our cameras via the HDMI or SDI signal. Or, like we're using it, we're just simply using an XLR input. So that's pretty great right there. Let's talk about some of the things you could do with this. Right now, we're just using 1 camera. Later on, we'll get a second camera. I do recommend using matched cameras because when you want to do white balance and color consistency between the cameras, it's best to go with twin products. But here's something I tried. If I only have 1 camera, maybe you want to do this, and maybe you want to do something like a laptop presentation, maybe a PowerPoint. Maybe you're a speaker and you have your points on a PowerPoint. Guess what? Many laptops have an HDMI in. In fact, I tried this with one of my old MacBooks. Has an HDMI output. I plugged it in there. I set up the screen resolution so it would look right. And, if I was speaking, I would have the camera on the presenter. And then when I wanted to refer to the slides, I would just press 2. Okay. Very cool solution. The other solution I love about this is that with this SDI loop out, now remember that HDMI, when you run a long cable, it has its limits. If you want to go over 20 feet, you're going to need some kind of converter, some kind of special cable. That's where SDI comes in, and that's the power of that. With our SDI connection here, I have a short 3-foot cable, but I could run over 100 feet. So if I had a camera, a bigger auditorium, and I have a camera person that's 100 feet away, they could have their camera plugged in power coming through this HDMI converter to SDI converter. They're sending me their super signal 100 feet away. It comes in here. I now have 2 cameras. One can be far away. Again, there's other options with converters. So you basically could have a situation where you have a director and maybe 2 cameras. Maybe you give them some headset mics and some walkie-talkies. And you now have a 2-camera system where you have a director who's directing the shots for the 2 camera people. The thing that we're going to be trying in a couple weeks, hopefully, is with the SDI loop out, we could send that signal into a different room. SDI cable is not very expensive. You can get a cable. We're going to run it about 30 feet. We need some other kind of converter, put it to an HD TV monitor. Boom, we have an overflow room. So this allows us to do a lot of cool things. Now, sadly, it doesn't allow us to record, so you're going to have to figure out some solution to record it if you want. Again, using your HDMI output, your loop out, or even the SDI loop out, it'll allow you to record that. So it does give you options to record it, but it is not a recorder. And for our solution, what we're doing live on Sunday morning, we've just focused on streaming, letting that go up, and any kind of record of it. We're not doing editing later. It's just live. It's raw. That's the way we've chosen to do that. It stays on our stream. Later, if we wanted to edit, I guess we could download and edit. But that's probably one of the things that it doesn't have. But this solution is not an end-all solution. In fact, it's part of a bigger solution that Blackmagic offers. Say, for example, you wanted to go to more than 2 cameras. You could use a 4-camera video switcher. They're ATM TV switchers. Pretty cool. But those things do not allow you to stream. So actually, this could be integrated with one of those switchers as your dedicated streaming product. And you can have your switcher for your 4 cameras, even 4 cameras coming into one, adding another one, you actually have a 5-input system right there. Lastly, this thing, again, it connects to your computer or laptop with a old school USB signal. So that means you're not using this with your Android phone or your iOS device. It's using it with a computer. When it plugs into your computer, whatever app you're using, maybe Facebook Live or YouTube Live, whatever, it's going to only see this as one camera. Even though you are physically running 2 cameras, it's going to see this as one camera, and all the switches you do will seamlessly work with, again, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, whatever people are using these days. Okay, so that's my review, and I'll give you some closing thoughts about it. Hopefully you can tell that I love this device. It's been working with us. It's been solid. Again, I love it that we're using XLR audio coming in clean, allows us to use our mixer, effects, compression. It all comes in great, allows us to do that. We've chosen to focus in on web streaming, so we're not editing, so we don't really need to worry about editing later. But if that is something you're concerned about, you have to add some kind of a video capture solution. But for web streaming and what we've chosen to do, it's solid. I'm very happy with the product. It allows us to use some older technology. You know, we don't have to get the highest and fastest laptop. We don't have to use the highest and fastest internet access. And so it's very accessible in that way. It gives us the option of 2 cameras, having these cameras even spread out farther, even having that overflow option of a video loop output. So it's been a great investment for our church. I'm really happy that Blackmagic came out with this device. I'm glad that it's part of a bigger solution that you can add other things to it later. And I'll give you the price tag in some of my closing slides here. But, you know, for about $1,500, I think, when you put all the pieces together, you've put together a simple 2-camera setup that's ready for web streaming along with your computer, other audio inputs. You're building a good thing. So I have not abandoned the Mevo. I still love it. I still use it. But for our Sunday morning purpose, having a rock-solid, physically connected system is what I feel most comfortable with. So thanks for your time. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. But thanks for your time, and good luck with your projects.